From the Building of Faith, welcome to Celebration, a Christian talk and variety show with outreaches across the world via television, radio, internet, and social media. You'll hear from today's leading authors, preachers, singers, evangelists, songwriters, and local Christian leaders. Now here's your host, president and founder of Journey Network, Dr. J.T.Guyton.
Well, first of all, you just alluded to if any of you have questions that you want to ask Kevin or Cindy about Mel and everything that we're talking about today, I want to just encourage you to go get the J3 Radio app if you don't already have it, and maybe that's how you're listening right now, but that is the way where you can communicate with us, ask your questions, leave your requests for your favorite songs, all that great stuff. J3 Radio app is the gift that really keeps on giving, and go get it. It's right there on the App Store for you. Today's going to be really fun, though, because, you know what? I have always loved hearing stories about, like, just on-the-road stories in general, and hearing about some really great people, and Mel Tillis is definitely one of them, which it's going to be so fun to hear about.
Yeah, and they're on the phone with us, I believe.
Hear them beeping in.
Do you hear them?
Yeah.
Hello, Shoreys.
Hello. Kevin has stepped away for a minute, but I'm here, and hello to everybody down in Alabama.
Well, that's okay. We love Cindy.
Yeah, we do.
She's like John Christian and Cindy. Like they just hit it off, and they just have their own thing going when we all get together.
That's right.
Well, you know, we got to have those conversations that interest us.
That's true. I think mine and Kevin's conversation sometimes bore y'all, so y'all just do y'all thing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, Cindy, I'm so glad you're feeling better. I hate we didn't all get together like we normally do on New Year's Eve.
I know, you know, this is unfortunately not only is it a wonderful season, but it's also the season where everybody gets sick all at once. So, understandable, which we were there in person as well.
Oh yeah, we will make up for it very, very soon. First of all, thank you for doing this with us and for all of our listeners out here. And of course, we play a lot of TILLIS music on J3 Radio, and we do appreciate you doing this with us today.
Oh yeah, I've been looking forward to it, and I need to send you some more. You know, Dad had put out a really great, if I thought about it in advance, one of his last CDs that he put out was a Christmas album.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really one of my favorites. And then, of course, I'm trying to think, also before that, of course, the comedy album, which is out, and it's, I say album, CD, and it's really hilarious, and so there's a lot to choose from for sure.
Right. Do you know we had two Christmas songs by Mel. One was White Christmas, and then the other was Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and he did that with Nancy Sinatra.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I haven't heard that version, I haven't heard that one actually.
Wow.
I'm sure if I look through. About 15 years ago, Daddy gave us for Christmas, each one of us, a case that had all of his CDs and whatnot. So, of course, I'm familiar with when he did record with Nancy, but I need to go back and revisit that one.
Yeah.
But he did a great song on his last Christmas one called God's Presence. And it will just make you cry. And, you know, somebody sent it in on a cassette tape, and my dad would always listen to those tapes that people would send in because, you know, you never knew when you were going to find a hit song. And this one particular song really resonated with him. And, in fact, Kevin ended up also recording it on his last Christmas CD. So you'll have to... If you have Kevin's Christmas CD, it will definitely be on. It's called God's Presence.
Okay.
And it'll make you tear up for sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to get the Mel Christmas before next season rolls around.
Yes.
That's for sure. So I have a lot of questions, and then we're just going to do, and I guess go wherever today. But your dad, gosh, he was in the public eye for so long, though. But what did your dad? He was in the Air Force, right?
Yeah, he was in the Air Force. When he got out of high school, he had a college football scholarship to University of Florida, and he went to go there. That was one of his dreams. He loved playing football. They called him Crazy Legs Tillis on the Pahokee, Florida Blue Devils team. And anyway, he got to University of Florida and found out that he just wasn't quite big enough or fast enough, and came back to his hometown, and his dad basically told him he needed to go to work in the hometown bakery, which his father was a baker.
Okay.
So he did that for a bit, and then he realized he really didn't want to do that. He didn't want to be a baker, and so he went across the street and signed up for the Air Force and told his dad that he had enlisted, and he got into the Air Force, and they do all these aptitude tests and whatnot to find out where you're best suited. And when his came back, they had him signed up to be a baker in the Air Force.
Oh.
So he didn't get very far from that skill set, and so he was a baker in the Air Force, and of course he had a joke that said he served his country. He served them apple pies and donuts and cakes, and
that's great.
So so that's really where he and that's also he really launched his music career in earnest when he was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, as a backup rhythm guitar and vocal singer for a band called the Westerners in Okinawa. So that's really that opened the door for his singing career as well.
I read somewhere, and this may not be correct, so correct me if I'm wrong, but he won like a talent contest when he was like 16 years old. Is that right?
Oh, well, him and my Aunt Linda, they were always winning the talent contest. In the local school system, the local city, little town that he was from. So it wasn't anything that led him to any kind of doors opening. But no, they always won the contest when they were little. So.
Okay, wow, that's interesting for sure. So, what I guess, do you know what the first song he wrote was?
The first song he wrote, I don't know the first song he wrote. He wrote many. When he came to Nashville, they told him they didn't need any stuttering singers. They needed copyright. And so he came back to he went back to Florida and started writing songs. And, I know one of the first ones he wrote was a song called Honky Tonk, which Webb Pierce ended up cutting. In fact, he tells the story that he was working in the strawberry patch and had the car radio on, and he heard his song had been recorded and was on the airwaves. And
wow.
He told my mom, "Let's pack up. We're going back to Nashville. One of my songs has been cut." So, so I know "Honky Tonk" was one of his first songs that he wrote.
Okay. Now, so many people, they always make reference to the stutter, but a lot of people think that was just part of the act.
Oh no! I mean, when he was 3, he came down with malaria. And he nearly died. My grandmother, she sat by his bedside and took care of him and got him through that. And when he recovered, the stutter, I've always heard that they had a little, they all, like my uncle even stuttered a bit. So I don't know if it was somehow in the family, but after the malaria, Dad's stutter was much more pronounced. Was really, Mom said when she first met Daddy, he couldn't barely talk. And so, it was not, of course, as the years went by, it became something he was known for. And, there was a lot of humor around it, but also very real. I'll give you a little story. When Glenn Campbell had him on his Good Time Hour show, they had written a script where Dad was in the storyline, and they wrote in a stutter for him to stutter. Mm-hmm. And Glenn got really upset and kind of came to Dad's defense and told the writers in front of everybody, look, this man really stutters. You don't need to write in the stutter, and I don't want to ever see that again in the script, and really kind of defended Dad in that way. So it was very real, very real.
Yeah, wow, that's very interesting. You've mentioned your mom a time or two, and, they say behind every great man is a good woman, or an even greater woman, maybe we should say. But I had the privilege of meeting your mom several years ago when y'all still lived out in Branson, and I just wanted to bring her into the conversation because she, within herself, I don't know if she was a singer or not, but I know she was a great artist.
Well, no, she couldn't sing a lick, but she was with Dad when he wrote a lot of his hits, whether they were driving down the road. And Mom said she co-penned a lot of the songs.
Yeah.
She said she never got any credit for it, but she was an artist, and she started painting and drawing and doing all sorts of, sculpting and, whittling. And if there was a way she could make art, she found a way. And when she passed, my mom had over 800 pieces of original art that she had created. Much of which we still have. Yeah. We have a lot hanging in our house.
Sure.
My mom was both my parents were very prolific in their own ways, and she definitely had that talent.
Yeah, she did, because I remember she took me all through the house showing me this stuff that not only she painted, but that she would create with her hands, and it was amazing.
Yeah, she made these one winter. It was really cold. At this time, she was living in Branson, Missouri, and she had stayed in the house pretty much all winter, and she made these people. She would go to the thrift store and buy little outfits, and then she would come home and make a person out of styrofoam, and I called them her village idiots, but she never really liked that. But she had all sorts of, people that she made that, and I think they're the greatest work of folk art that I've ever seen. And someday I hope we can display them somewhere. Somebody that would really appreciate this little group of people that she made. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, right. Well, she definitely was a great artist and a very, very sweet person for sure. Now, let me ask, I got you a while back to send me what your top 5 Mel Tillis songs were. And you had in that list one of my favorites, and that was I Believe in You. And we're going to play that in just a minute. One that I had never, I don't know, somehow I had never heard this one. It was called Heart Over Mind.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic Western swing shuffle, and a lot of people have cut that song, but the last time I heard it played live, Alison Krauss had actually gotten up on stage and was doing Heart Over Mind.
Oh, and wow.
It's a really, Ray Price cut it. I think Ray Price had the first hit on it, but it's just your classic Western swing shuffle, and it's a great song to do the two-step to, but also just some really great lyrics, and I love that song. It's probably, as I said, it's definitely one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did not know this, that he wrote Life Turned Her That Way.
Yes. Oh, actually, Ricky Van Shelton cut that song. I don't know that Dad wrote that song. Dad cut that song.
Okay.
But I don't think that was the one that he penned. He might have co-written it.
Okay.
Dad Daddy did a healthy mix. I mean, it's funny because in his early days, his catalog, I mean, he wrote over 500 songs, but at some point during the 70s, he started getting more into television and doing that kind of thing, and he kind of got away from writing songs, which I know later in life he really regretted that because he really did have a true talent for that, but he always said that God only gives you so many, and maybe he felt like he had his fair share of songs, but I don't know that that's one he wrote.
I got you. Okay. Well, I know, like, one of my favorite Mel Tillis songs was, and I always thought he wrote this, and then you told me that he didn't, and that's Ain't No California.
Right. You know, that was a period when, again, he was being produced by a California producer, and I think that was one of the songs they picked out for him, but it really fit him, and I think a lot of those albums in the 70s, they're very different from what he wrote when he first started out.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, country music changed quite a bit. I mean, you know, when Glenn Campbell cut the song Rhinestone Cowboy, you know, that was pretty much in that genre at that time.
Right.
So, but I know Dad loved the classic country music, and he had his favorites. He loved Red Foley, which, again, I don't know if you know Red Foley, but his daughter was Shirley Boone, which you've interviewed
Pat. Yeah.
And Eddie Arnold. Daddy loved Eddie Arnold, so he loved all the classic artists as well.
Right. Well, that song, I remember as a kid, you know, constantly going around singing "Ain't No California, No Big Rock Candy Mountain."
Yeah.
You just have those things that stick out in your mind, and I know this young man sitting over here beside me in the studio. He's got a Mel Tillis favorite as well.
Yeah, I do. I have always loved Ruby. And I won't forget when Uncle played it for me the first time. I was like, this is one of the coolest songs that I've ever heard.
Yeah, Ruby, it's a tragic song. I mean, when you think about the story, and it's a true story. You know, Ruby, they lived down there, my parents down in Florida, and of course he had been injured in the war, and the wife had, you know, was, I guess, stepping out on him, and it just, I don't, you know, but it is a wonderful song. That opened a lot of doors, and Daddy always said it paid a lot of the grocery bills. Of course, Kenny Rogers had a huge hit with it, and I like Kenny's version, but I always liked hearing Dad sing it himself. Sure. So,
and it's one of those cool songs too, where it's like it's got an upbeat feel, but I love songs that have that sound, but then they tell a really deep story. And you don't always see that coming, but it kind of lures you in, and then you've got to deal with it. Well, and that one, and also Bob Dylan, they just did a book that Bob Dylan authored regarding the top 100 songs of all time, and the very first song on that list was a song my dad wrote called Detroit City, which is just a classic Americana song. Bobby Bear had a big hit on it with it, and a lot of other people recorded that song, but it's kind of ironic because Daddy always really looked up to Bob Dylan. I never knew that, but I know he looked up to the fact that he could tell a story, and so it was a great, you know, when I found out that Bob Dylan had named that one of the top songs of all time, that just really made me super proud of knowing how Dad felt about Bob Dylan. Did they spend much time together? No,
I don't think they ever met. Daddy he had those people that he admired, and I don't think he ever met Bob Dylan. Okay. He got to meet a lot of the people, like Burl Ives was one of his mentors, and Daddy was attracted to the pure entertainers, the entertainers that could get up on stage and just mesmerize you and could tell a story and could keep you laughing and could make you, shed a tear. And Daddy really worked at that craft of becoming an all-around entertainer. And Burl Ives was definitely one of those that Dad really kind of idolized.
Yeah.
For those listening, just in case you were wondering, if you caught that in the story, there really was a Ruby.
Yeah. Let's backtrack.
But the question is,
sorry to get off.
No. We love the stories. But my question was, the lady's name Ruby? I don't remember.
Yes, it was Ruby. And,
okay.
I think one of the reasons why, I often wonder why some of Dad's songs, they were definitely hits in their own right, but some of the other entertainers like Johnny Cash and maybe even Glenn Campbell, they're, I don't know, they just have kind of a different stigma to them in terms of, not stigma, but they're kind of in a different spotlight. And I often wondered why Dad, I feel like he achieved so much, but oftentimes I feel like he's still overlooked in some areas. And, I think Ruby is a song that, I don't know that, I'm surprised it still gets the airplay it does, because it deals with, it deals with the murder and
right.
The way people feel about guns in some parts of the country. It's a hard song to hear. I mean,
But the lyrics, I've sat and just listened to the words, and the way your dad crafted those words. I mean, you just think about that. You painted up your lips and rolled and curled your tinted hair. That to me within itself is just awesome writing, because that wasn't just thrown together.
No, and you could really see that person. And then the same with, again, it talks about someone with a disability. And it was something that Dad knew all too well.
Sure.
Yes, his was a speech disability. But so I think it's a song that, again, I know it still resonates with a lot of people because it gets a lot of airplay. But I feel like it didn't really get the spotlight that maybe it should have deserved, because it deals with some hard subjects.
Yeah. And do you know how many different artists have covered that song?
Oh, I could look it up, but at least 20 or 25 people. I have that somewhere in my in Dad's information, but yeah, it a lot of people have covered that song.
Well, I do want to drop this in real quick while we're there. They can go to your dad's website and get information about your dad, and can they still order product through that, or how does that happen?
Yes, they can. Yeah, if they go to the store, I think it's just called the store. Mm-hmm. They can go on, and he doesn't have all of his catalog, but a lot of his CDs. So, a lot of his greatest hits are represented there. Okay. So, yes, they can still order through the website.
And that's meltillis.com.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So I want to encourage you guys to go check that out and get some history there and some stuff and some great music. My mind is just, blown away. The songs though that he either wrote or sang that someone else wrote. But I mean, my goodness, I Ain't Never. What a great song. Survival of the Fittest. Help me out here. Of course, you said Detroit City, and so many of those songs out there that still today are just one of mine. Another one of my favorites is my dad used to sing this all the time around the house with his guitar, and it's called Patches. Mm.
Oh yeah, New Patches.
New Patches.
New Patches. Yeah. Actually, Tommy Collins wrote that song, and it was one, again, that Dad covered later. But Dad loved those old Western swing type songs, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and doggone, such good songs as well. And then one song, of course, and your dad was in several movies as well, right?
He was in, oh gosh, half a dozen or more.
Wow.
Some well known, some not so well known. So his last movie he did was one he produced with Rory Clark called Uphill All the Way. And it's probably it's not a very well crafted movie, but he loved doing it. But yeah, he was in Cannonball Run.
Yeah, Cannonball Run.
Smokey and the Bandit, 1 and 2. He was also in a movie with Kirk Douglas and Arnold Schwarzenegger called The Villain.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, he was Every Which Way But Loose. He had a cameo.
Yes, and that song, Coca-Cola Cowboy.
Yeah, Coca-Cola Cowboy.
In that, yeah.
There was several hits from that movie that actually Clint Eastwood wanted Dad to cut, and when he listened to the songs, he didn't like any of them.
Yeah.
And Clint finally said, "No, you're going to cut these songs," and he did, and they all became hits. So he learned to not argue with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah,
I imagine.
So,
Clint may have known a little bit more about music, huh? Now, did he have a good relate? I guess he did, obviously, because he was in several movies with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, they were friends. You know, they, of course, they were both from Florida. Burt Reynolds played football for FSU. Dad wanted to play for Florida, so they had a lot in common. And yeah, they enjoyed each other's company. In fact, one of the first movies Dad was in was called WW and the Dixie Dance Kings.
Yes.
And that was filmed here in Nashville, and that was one of Dad's first movies. But they were friends, and it's funny. Sometimes I'll be going through some of Dad's paperwork, and I'll run across a phone message from Bert or Bert's phone number, or just. It always makes me laugh when I think about Daddy's circle of friends.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because the movie WW and the Dixie Dance Kings, I had never seen nor heard of that movie until about 10 years ago. A friend of mine was telling me about it. And
we are so glad you have been with us for this program. Our prayer is that today's show has been a blessing and an encouragement to you and your walk with the Lord. This ministry is continually reaching out to spread the good news of Jesus Christ to all the world. We need your love gifts and prayers to help keep this ministry on the air 24 hours a day. So call us at 1-833-963-5433 or write us at Journey Network, P.O. Box 1420, Atmore, Alabama 36504. Or you can contact us online at journeynetwork.live. If you would like to have JT come speak to your church, conference, or event, please visit our website and go to the Event Scheduling tab. Thank you for your continued support. And remember, God loves you, and we do too.